Sancho to score. No mistakes this time.
That is a rocket.
Royce and another fantastic goal by Marco Royce. Haaland's volley is beautiful beyond compare.
Jetzt kommt das Wunder von Dortmund. Foulspiel von Inzo an Götze.
Needs to lay it off. We're going to shot away. Oh, what a goal!
Welcome back to Dortmund Dispatch. Today, I'm clearly not Eli. I am Ali. I'll be hosting today's episode, and I'm joined by the incredible Joey. How you doing today, Joey?
I am doing pretty well. Extra good since Dortmund got the win, but on a personal level, just moved into a new place, so that will explain my brief absence on the podcast last few weeks. Have to give a shout out to Brian for covering for me, I should say, on one of those nights, but not too much to complain about here. So how about you, Ali?
I'm great. You know, both teams won. Dramatic endings. Just for reference and I guess a timestamp so you know exactly when I'm recording. Barca beat Madrid 20 minutes ago. Koundé scored the goal and I lost my head. But that's one trophy in the bag, so we're good to go there. So before we talk about the match, I just wanted to thank everyone who has been supporting us on all of our socials. As you know, we are literally everywhere. Dortmund Dispatch on every platform, but we also have our second podcast that we just started producing called the Bundesliga Exchange, where we talk about each team and essentially analyze their roster and see where their holes are, so to speak. And we have a new page which is the Bundesliga Dispatch, where we'll be having all of our content in one place from the Bundesliga Exchange and Dortmund Dispatch. We're creating so much content and we got more coming in the summer, so check the links in the bio and give us a follow. But yeah, no, today we're talking about Dortmund's incredible win over Hoffenheim. I just wanted to get your initial thoughts as to how that game went from your side.
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway in this game, and perhaps the game from last weekend as well, is Dortmund's resilience. There's something about this side that I feel like we haven't seen in a long time, where that equalizer is scored by the other team, or we go behind and like the team kind of falls apart or stops trying. And I think today's match just sort of it almost felt symbolic in a way, because Hoffenheim scored that equalizer in the 91st minute and we still found a way to squeeze out the victory. So yeah, I mean, really, really happy with the resilience, I think, as I said. But the media always likes to bring up that question of Dortmund's mentality. And I think that perhaps under Niko Kovac, we're beginning to see a different kind of Borussia Dortmund mentality that has perhaps been lacking the last couple of years, which gives me some good hope for the future. And I think it's really good momentum heading into these last few games. So what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, most importantly is obviously, right, we got the 3 points away. We love to talk about how difficult it is for us to actually win these away games, and it seems like for the past little while we've, I want to say, had at least like a character change in terms of our away games, because I'm watching them and I'm now hopeful. I know I am the dramatic one on the pod, but I am hopeful that we can win and bring, you know what I mean? It's because sometimes, right, like you're watching an away game and you're just like, man, we like are not connecting on passes, we're not linking up in terms of getting the ball into the final third, things like that. And we did see that this game. It's not like it's a completely gone pattern of play, but all in all, happy with the 3 points. I did raise some questions for the starting lineup, but we will get into that in terms of team selection. I'm not the stat man, but I do want to throw some stats at you because otherwise Eli is gonna, get mad if we don't talk about stats. But the XG which I think does tell some of the story. For Dortmund was 2.51 versus Hoffenheim's 1.34. I definitely do think that we were more threatening. We had 5 more shots on target. We created 1 more big chance. And for whatever it's worth, we did have more pass accuracy. I'm fairly certain we did see more of the ball as well. So, take that with a grain of salt. We did have more passes in the opposition box as a result, not box, in the opposition half rather. And one important stat that I did want to focus on was duels won. So we 147, they won 60. Now they were playing defensive, they were waiting for us to make mistakes. But I wanted to ask you, in terms of the midfield setup, what did you think with Chan moving back into the midfield?
So that was perhaps the biggest surprise in this lineup for me, mostly because Emre Can has been really solid as a center back in the last few weeks, especially as a center back under Niko Kovac. So putting him back into that central defensive midfield role, I did question it. I didn't think he had a bad match per se. I think he could have been a little bit better on some of his duels, but I mean, I think he did. I think he did just fine um, on the whole. So I don't know if I have too much to say on Emre Can for this one. I'd say pretty quiet game. Did his part. What
Well,
about you?
Well, I was surprised. I was expecting Svensson just based on like the list when it came out to be actually starting in midfield, just to give us a bit more fluidity and pace because a midfield of Nmecha, Chan, and Brandt in front of them slash off to the side, whatever you want to say. It did like that thought feels very blocky, very like lacking in mobility. So I would, if everything works out. At some point, would like to see Svensson in some sort of a midfield role, just to test it out. I know it's kind of difficult to test out since we are in like the business end of the season. Pardon me, and we're looking to secure a Europe position. However, I do think that trying that out and giving us a bit more mobility, something that we used to see with Guerrero, or I should say Guerrero, pardon me, really was it was a good dynamic shift, and I think that we are missing it because at some points, although Nemecha and Chan did play well, I did feel like we could have been a bit more fluid, especially through the midfield. We were dependent heavily on the wings, even though, just want to shout out Svensson, because he had an amazing game.
He did.
He was fantastic. He's been incredible. I'm surprised I didn't hear of him until he came, because I had no idea who he was. I just I saw a little white boy with blonde hair, and I'm like, wow, like another one, great. And then I see him play, I'm like, yo, this guy's amazing. How have I not heard of him? You know what I mean? But he was
about Rierson, yeah.
exactly, yeah, and not obviously it's all in jest, of course, but like I said, I did feel like the midfield was a little stiff. That's all my observation was. Now, I did want to talk about a couple players, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Brandt.
definitely.
Let's talk about Brandt. What do you think about Brandt and that finish?
I mean, leave it to Julian Brandt to pull that kind of finish out of nowhere. I mean, Brandt has gotten so much criticism this season, and much of it rightfully so. But what I've been afraid of for Brandt, especially in the recent weeks, is kind of what happened to Emre Can in the first half of the season, where he's sure Emre Can had a few really bad games, like howlers of games, but then he started being scapegoated in a way, and it's almost like any fan watching has a magnifying glass on Emre Can. So when he makes a mistake, we're all talking about it on podcasts, on social media, and I think that in this year's Rückrunde, it it's been Brandt, and Brandt has had some pretty bad games, but he has given us some decent performances here and there. Um, Not putting up the numbers like last year, But in this game, I mean, I was blown away by that finish. I mean that cross came in. I think it was from Nikki Sula, and that had pace on it. So for Brandt to just take it out of the air, um, I mean that was a great goal, well deserved, and I hope that that gives him some confidence. And the one other thing with Brandt is there are a lot of rumors right now suggesting that he might leave this summer. And if he does, at the end of the day, that is our currently senior most player. So I want to enjoy these last few games with Brandt just in case they're his last in black and yellow. So I'm more than happy with that goal and really happy with his performance tonight.
Yeah, it was amazing. That pass, by the way, was by none other than Svensson, who was the
That was
second
by
player.
Svensson.
Oh my gosh, what a ball. That was perfect. The cross was amazing. The finish was incredible. I think both of them linked up very well on the first and the second goal, right? Because that pass over the top from Brandt into Svensson's run was great. It was, exactly what we needed, which is why I think Svensson through the midfield could really work. But it's nice having him with that freedom, right, to go through the midfield but still be able to be an outlet on obviously a lot of plays because he is our left wing back. But so we talked about actually before I even get into that, let's talk about Cyril Guirassy. What do you think? Because I put it in our group chat. I was like, who's gonna take the penalty? Is it gonna be Cyril or the greatest penalty taker in the squad? And lo and behold, Cyril stepped up, and I think we all had a moment of I don't know about this one. I think Emre Can should be taking it, kind of. So what do you think?
So a couple thoughts. I mean, one, Guirassy got the opening goal, great, and he was instrumental in the third goal, the winning goal as well. But we're treating each of these games like a final, and if we're treating them like a final, like we say we are, you have to let the captain take that. You have to let Emre Can bury that. I mean, Guirassy is a good penalty taker, but he has missed one already this season in Champions League, and Emre Can just hasn't missed a penalty for Dortmund. So in that sense, I felt like Guirassy was a little bit greedy because Emre Can had the ball, was lining up. Guirassy went in to talk to him, and I mean, I think Guirassy saw this as an easy opportunity to get an extra goal to his name, and I mean, again, I'm just speculating, but in the situation we're in right now, where every game has to be a win, every point matters right now. It just made this match much more difficult than it needed to be because that could have been 2-0 right there, um, giving us a little bit of cushion. And I think there was something about how tame that penalty was and the fact that Baumann saved it that just triggered momentum for Hoffenheim through the rest of the first half. So I did see a bit of a momentum shift, and I'm still really glad we won. I think Guirassy had a pretty good performance outside of that instant, but I think he does deserve a bit of criticism, both for taking the penalty and honestly for how tame the penalty was.
I I agree on some parts, right? So I do agree that we are treating every game like a final, right? Because we are looking to get into the the European placements. It is, like I said earlier, the business end of the season. I don't mind him stepping up, but if you're the one to take it, one, it needs to be a better penalty, and two, even if you miss it, like the other aspects rather of your game need to take a step up after it. And I think we had a problem at one point where we're trying to counter, and when the ball gets to him, everything slows down too much, and it kind of killed the momentum. And everything just started to go in reverse from, just like you said, everything just started to like shift, and I got really nervous. And lo and behold, they did end up scoring eventually off of a deflection. I believe it was in the second half, right? Yeah, it was in the second half, the 61st minute. So yeah, let's talk about the goals. So their first goal, right? Because we talked about Brandt, we talked about Guirassy's miss. Their first goal is a pass over the top that beats our back line. Bensebaini is too slow to get there. It's not really it's hard to blame him for this one. He tries to get a foot in, takes a deflection, goes over Kobel. So that one, my issue is not Benza Baini. It's why isn't the person making the pass getting pressed? Because I'm looking at it now. I believe that's Chan. I don't know why he's that high up, first of all, because he's supposed to be our 6. And he's just jogging towards him, letting that ball go in over the top, taking out Anton and Zula like that. You know what I mean? That was a big problem I had. And we have an issue, or I would say we have had an issue with these passes over the top that just take apart our back line. We have a pressing issue when Bayer and Kareem are not on. And, this needs to change, especially since we are trying to get these points. Like, even if we got 1 point from this game, sure, but that goal kind of, I would say it's not what you want to see. You can concede goals, but not from a pass like that. That's way too easy. He's right down the middle. It's a pass over the top. It's very like route one. Am I crazy for feeling that way?
I don't think so. And I mean, again, I don't know if I even have too much to add on that first goal, because I think you covered it. A bit too lackadaisical, you could say, or it's like the defense turns off for that split second. I don't know why they're not pressing well enough. And we've seen with some players that it's like some players, especially players who come from other leagues, who aren't really able to develop the ability to press, kind of like Daniel Malen. Um, but I mean, in a game like this, it's like, come on, guys.
Yeah, you
Just press.
you need to be. Yeah, exactly. You need to press. If it's not like if the forwards aren't doing it and the midfield has to get drawn out that much, like that's a conversation to have too, right? Like I said, why is Emre Chan there? Well, why aren't one of the forwards helping out with the press? Because we have 2 up top, one can drop. You know what I mean? If it's gonna be Gittins, right? If it's gonna be Jamie Gittins, okay, no problem. But you need to help out. I think it was at the moment on the side of Girassi. So someone needs to move. Someone needs to relieve pressure from the midfield because, like I said at the start of the conversation, we don't have a mobile midfield. We're not expecting them to be running like they're not engines, right? We don't have an engine really. I think Pascal Grossi could say, but even then he gets tired. So. Yeah, sorry. Is there anything you wanted to add?
I guess I have a couple things to add about the Hoffenheim's second goal, if you want to talk about
There,
that.
I was exactly going to go into it. Go for it.
So the second goal to me was completely preventable, and I really kind of chalk this up to that terrible. I don't even know if it was a pass or a clearance that Kobel had. He waited way too long. Again, had to make the clearance, which was kind of a pass with pace toward Jan Kuto. And there's no way that Kuto was going to control that. So ball goes out of play in the final third. And it's just like another one of these situations where our defense is picked apart from a throw in that comes in. And I mean, in one sense, I just blame Kobel for this one. I mean, it wasn't at the the shot was at his near post. The goal was not, because it was one of those like headers where it kind of popped over him and into that far corner. But it, conceding the throw in a dangerous place was bad enough. But then the defenders not getting into a position to prevent. I can't remember his name, but it was kind of a free header in the end, and I just felt like every aspect of that goal was preventable. So that's my 2 cents on the matter.
Yeah, for sure. And it came like right at the end of the game, essentially. If we didn't have all those extra minutes of stoppage time, what would have happened? You know what I mean? It would have ended 2-2, not a favorable result. I felt like we could have imposed ourselves a bit more. Svensson is caught in 2 minds. Do I press the guy in front of me? Do I go to the back post? And we've seen this goal scored not too long ago against us, where like it's a looping header into the back post. The other one, obviously, right? You could say it was a bit of a mistake, whatever. But regardless, we this is something to look into, right? We may be weak on our back post when it comes to these sort of plays. And not a great time to concede, but luckily we push forward and we take home the 3 points with an Anton essentially last second buzzer beater win or shot rather, and yeah, it was great effort. I believe it was from Carney, who drove the ball forward, nearly lost it. To be honest, fell into the lap of Seru, lays it off to Anton, and he bags it. So all in all, I'm happy with the 3 points. Glad that we showed some character, but I did want to talk about some of the negative performances because he did talk about Koble, and I wanted to talk about Jamie Gittins. What did you think of him today?
I mean, honestly, I thought Jamie started with a bit of promise. He had a couple pretty good runs up the wing at different times. He had a shot blocked at one point, but unfortunately, the longer the match wore on, Jamie kind of faded into the category of non-influential, or like he was out there, but I'm not sure how much he was really doing in the second half to help us. Um, I'd love to see Gittins start just cranking in a couple of goals, because you know that if he finishes the season on a high, that's going to be like an extra 5, 10, 15 million that Dortmund's going to be able to squeeze out of Chelsea this summer. Um, and maybe that was the reasoning for starting him over Kareem. I don't know. But he has not really been performing at the level that we saw him in the first half of the season. And I think when we see him on the ball, we can see how technically gifted Jamie is. But I think that there were times that his decision making was not always the best, making a good run and not getting the ball off to the easiest teammate. Um, and I think some of that is really just aspects of his game that he probably needs to learn a bit more. But I mean, yeah, I think that's about all I got on Giddens.
Yeah, and just for the record, I'm not saying he had a bad a performance like a super poor performance. Try saying that 5 times. But it's more so there was like an instance of about like 10 minutes. It felt like 10 minutes at least, where every time we're trying to get the ball forward, it would land at his feet, and we would just have another silly giveaway and another silly giveaway, another silly giveaway. Like we had a big problem with just holding the ball up top, and it felt like when Kareem came on, who, by the way, man, what a guy, amazing player. He just gave us like that confidence to want to get forward. He's taking people on. He's receiving, turning, and facing the defense. Like he's making them step back. You know what I mean? Whereas JG would get the ball, and I felt like at one point, like he was, like you said, at a loss of what to do next. But I did want to ask you. Now this is obviously opinion, right? So you let me know what you think. But was Bauman fouled in the lead up to the Anton winner?
I mean, of course, if you're a Hoffenheim fan and you're listening to this, you'll probably disagree with me. But thankfully, if you're listening to this, you're more likely to be a Borussia Dortmund fan than a Hoffenheim fan. I mean, it's kind of a tough one, because you see that welt on Bauman's forehead start to form over the course of the next few minutes. But um, I did rewatch this play a couple of times right before recording, because I knew this question was coming. And from the angles that we can see on the cameras, and I mean, granted, VAR has more camera angles than we do, but I mean, Chukwuemeka goes in, and it almost looks like Bauman misses the ball and takes out Chukwuemeka, and then Chukwuemeka crashes into, his shin into Bauman's face, or his knee into his face or something, and Bauman does get right up and try to like recover while the play is going on. But I mean, there's no way, if that, had he just deflected the ball and not taken the hit to the face, there's no way he was getting back for Anton's shot. It all happened so quickly. Um, but to get back onto the topic of was this a foul? Um, w- Real time while we were watching this, my first instinct was if that goal hadn't gone in, that would have been a PK. Because I thought Chukwuemeka was just like feet swept out from under him. And maybe there was some contact on the ball, but I I mean, at best, that's a 50-50 challenge. And in a 50-50 challenge, I mean, that's part of being a keeper. Keepers, they put their body on the line to try to block the attack, and Bauman did that. The only difference was that the ball bounced back to it fell pretty fortunately for Girassi, who just knocked it over to Anton. Um, so at the end of the day, I think it was the right call. And again, it was a lengthy VAR look at it, and I mean, take that. I've complained about VAR plenty on this podcast, but yes, my humble opinion says that this is not a foul. So, what do you think about it,
Well,
Ali?
you heard it here first. Joey loves the VAR. He's a big fan. He's a big advocate, actually, for the
Especially when
VAR.
Zwayer's the official.
But yeah, man. Yeah. So I think that it could have gone either way. I think that if the goal was disallowed, I would understand. But it wasn't disallowed, and we got 3 points. So I don't really care. But let's talk about Anton's quote after the game. He said, "This is pure emotion. We've earned it here today. The second half wasn't so good. Damn right it wasn't. But we believed in it until the end, even after the 2-2. That's what characterizes us in the end. I'm happy that I scored the goal." So there's not much to say about that. I think that's a very, very, very nice way to put it. That they showed heart all the way till the last second. So let's get into the stars and duds of the week. Who is your star, Mr. Joe?
My star is from that quote. It is Valdemar Anton. Um, for starters, I've just been really impressed with his performances since Nico Schlotterbeck's injury. I think that Anton has really stepped into that central defense role, also as a bit of a leader. Because with Schlotterbeck's absence, that is a team leader who's also missing from the pitch. So I mean, Anton has stepped up in a lot of ways, and getting that goal today, that just was kind of the icing on the cake for me. So Valdemar Anton, hats off to you. That was great performance, deserved goal, deserved winner.
Just for reference, Anton stats, right? Because Eli's gonna listen to this and he's gonna wonder why we didn't say any stats. He had 4 clearances. He had of those 4 were 2 headed clearances, 1 interception, but 7 defensive actions in total, and 5 recoveries. He won 4 duels, lost 1. He was fouled 3 times, and he committed only 1 foul. He had a great game, fully agree. But my star is going to be the Swede on the left, who I've been a big, big fan of since he's come in. He's been great, since we've been seeing him get more minutes. He can play make, he can score, he can do it all, essentially. He's been fantastic. He's especially for that first goal for Seru, showed a lot of heart, a lot of tactical awareness to make that run in behind and to actually lunge to get that ball to Seru, which I love to see. It shows like what kind of player he is, and like I mentioned earlier, that ball into Brandt was just ridiculous. That was just perfect. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Who was your dad? I have a feeling who you're gonna say, because it might be the same as mine.
Well, I mean, I already touched on it a little bit, so I don't need to spend too much time. Actually, I have 2 duds. My first dud is ESPN Plus, because that my stream this morning took me back to the days of watching it on your computer with crummy Wi-Fi and everything's kind of pixelated the whole time, and Wi-Fi seems fine. All the other devices working fine. ESPN Plus on different devices not working fine. So that is first stud. But being more serious, my dud of this week is Gregor Kobel. I just think he could have had a better game. I think he's in his head a little bit between the transfer rumors that have kind of popped up about him, and the fact that he has not had a clean sheet since I think it's like the 1st or 2nd of March, maybe. Um, and again, that the couple of errors I feel that led to the second goal, um, have to give him a little bit of criticism for. I mean, I am a fan of Kobel, but he can do better. Who
Yeah,
was your dud?
yeah. So that's the thing. I don't know who to pick because I did like everybody's personality. I don't want to pick JG, even though I did pick on him a little earlier. And I don't want to pick the same person. So we're gonna go with and I don't want to. Yeah, screw it. You know what, Kobel? Yeah, bro, save that. Come on now. I need you. I need like that. That kick out, that giveaway. Put us in a real tight position. To be quite honest, like you said,
It did.
And it's not something that you want to see from. Well, to be honest, our experienced goalkeeper, right? Right. There are, like you said, rumors and all these transfer talks, and he's not really doing himself any favors if he did want to leave, because that was really poor. That showed, some inexperience. That was a very young mistake. That's the best way I could put it. It was a very young mistake.
Yes.
But let's talk about the upcoming match against Wolfsburg. Just as a quick preview, their last game was a loss, 1-0 to Freiburg. Max Arnold, who I still can't believe is still playing, he's not going to be available due to a red. Now, although it did give Freiburg 3 points, who we're trying to overcome, it could mean that we will potentially be gaining another 3 points ourselves, since Max Arnold won't be available for them, and they have not won a single game in their last 5. I don't like that stat because teams that are playing like this typically turn up against us. I don't know why. This is a very common, shall we say, a trend against us, where teams that don't play well all of a sudden turn up against Dortmund. I don't know what it is. So, what do you think? What's to come against Wolfsburg?
I mean, on paper, this should be an easy win. But unfortunately, this is Borussia Dortmund, and things are rarely as straightforward as they might seem. This is
on paper.
this. I mean, this is kind of a tough one, because during the injury crisis, wasn't it Wolfsburg who knocked us out of the cup?
Yes.
But then I believe it was also a win against Wolfsburg, which probably saved Nuri Sahin his job through the winter break. And we all know how that turned out in the end.
So where do we stand on Wolfsburg? Where do we stand on them then?
I mean, I like to think that if Nuri Sahin's Borussia Dortmund can defeat Wolfsburg, then Niko Kovac's Dortmund can defeat Wolfsburg. I think we've got some good momentum. We're going to be back in the home stadium. And I think of our remaining 3 games, this one should be the easiest. And I do think Wolfsburg would be easier to beat than a Holstein Kiel. One, not just because Holstein Kiel beat us earlier this season, but also because you can't underestimate a team that either 1 has nothing to play for, or 2 might be saving themselves in the Bundesliga with the win. Because I think Holstein Kiel had quite the victory this morning or yesterday. I can't remember when they played. But it's like they're all but relegated, and if they just somehow mount a good run of games, who knows? But I digress. Back to Wolfsburg. in our home stadium, with our crowd, I've got to imagine that Kovac is going to, I mean, keep doing what he's doing. If we won 3 games in a row for the first time this season, why can't we win 4 games in a row?
You know what? I think that sums it up. If we won 3, go for another one. You may as well. Like, you're already there, right? No, but honestly, I feel like I do expect a win. I think our team now is much better than what it was with obviously Shaheen. I think there's been to reference Anton earlier, there's been a character shift. He must have gotten in people's faces and said, "Hey, you should be doing more. You should be doing better, etc., etc." Because people have stepped up. There's been less hiding in terms of our big personalities. So I do expect a win. I'm gonna go for we're at home. I'm gonna go for a 3-1 because I feel like Kobal's gonna leak at least one. What do you think?
I mean, I think that's a fair prediction. I'm gonna go with a 3-2 win. I think it's gonna be another 3-2 where Dortmund does something dumb at some point to make the game more complicated than it needs to be.
So every week.
Yep.
Oh man. So just for reference, Wolfsburg is currently in 12th place, and in our head-to-head, Dortmund and Wolfsburg have played each other 45 games in total. Dortmund has won 28, Wolfsburg has won 10, and we've drawn 7. So the history favors us. Now, will the winds favor us on the day? We'll see. In other news, Werder Bremen is in for Brandt, apparently. I don't know how I feel about losing Brandt. I don't think selling him is the best option. I think bringing in a 10 who's not Carney, because I'm not on that hype train personally, but bringing in a 10 who you want to take the throne, so to speak, whether it's through the youth academy, pardon me, whether it's someone you have to go out and purchase, I think is the way to do it. If Brandt were to leave, I do then expect a big signing in that role, as that's a really important spot for us. And we could talk about profiles and what we hope to get, whatever. But I think losing Brandt is a mistake, to be quite honest. But what do you think?
I mean that's a tough one, and I'm probably a little bit biased because I've been a big fan of Julian Brandt since his time at Leverkusen. Um, he's been killing me this season with his lackluster performances, and he still has another year on his contract. So I think, I mean, there is a role for him to play in this Dortmund squad. I don't think it's the number 10 that is starting every 3 to 4 days. I think with him getting older, that's just not the player that he is anymore. Um, it, Given his market value, which, I mean, I don't have that in front of me, but I think it's somewhere around like 15-20 million maybe. Um, if the right offer comes in, then perhaps Dortmund lets him go. But I wouldn't, if I was in Dortmund's shoes, I wouldn't necessarily be pursuing a transfer for Brandt. Um, I think that could be a question to maybe raise in the winter. Um, if it just seems like he's fallen off a cliff, he doesn't have a role as a sub or anything, then okay, get him off the books, find him a place to go in the winter. But right now, I do think that I think we see a better Brant when he's not playing every single match. I think we see a better Brant when he gets to be used as a substitute once in a while, when he's rested here and there. Because I think the expectations for him to fill that number 10 role, um, expectations of somebody whose legs are 2 years younger than Brant. So I agree with you completely, completely in that I think we do need a new number 10 to kind of fill that main 10 role. Um, but I'm not ready to write off Brandt just yet.
I agree. I think he still has more to give to the club. I do agree that having him, uh, you know, not play every game, but at least contribute, rotate. Whether like if that's something he wants to do, right? Because maybe he's like, no, I'm a starter. I want to play every game. If that's his right. If that's what he wants to do, great. Then I personally I would say the door is open. But you did mention his transfer value. According to Transfer Market, as of March 27, 2025, he's at 25 million euros. His contract will expire.
Worth more than I thought.
Exactly, yeah. His contract will expire the summer rather of 2026. So we have a year left. So if they do sell him this summer, it would be more so just to cash in while they can, which I understand. But I'd like for him to stay. On Instagram, we do run a lot of polls, and our social media manager for it did run a poll asking our followers this question. 46% just want him off the books, 29% called for patience, and another 29 thought Bremen wouldn't be able to afford him. So we'll see what happens there. Next we have Strasbourg's Ismail Doucouré. There's been links with him to the Black and Yellows. He's a 21-year-old defender linked with both us and Leverkusen. His contract runs till 2026, and the player seems to be refusing to extend, so he's looking for a move away. That's a year left, and could be a good deal. And yeah, what are your thoughts on this one?
I mean, the defensive side is an interesting one right now, especially because we know that Nico Schlotterbeck is not going to be available, at least for the beginning of next season. So looking at a 21-year-old prospect, I think is certainly a reasonable place to be, especially if we're talking about rebuilding the squad or looking at the future. This is not a player I've ever seen play, if I'm honest. So I'm really only just speaking off of reading the rumors. But I'm all for getting another defender on the books.
Oh, I'm right there with you. Especially since we're seeming to be liking this back three situation, which I do like. I have said it before. I am a big fan of this with the right players. So if they do look into signing him, whether it's this season or rather this summer, or they wait till the contract expires and bring him in for 2026, I'm okay with it. I do agree with Nico not being available at the start of next season. It does. I do hope rather that they do bring in someone, whether it's from the academy or someone externally. It does not matter to me. They just got to bring in someone. Someone has to be brought in because we're using more of our players and we don't have a substitute for them. Because like who's on the bench if like Anton gets hurt right now that we can comfortably say he'll fill in that void. Not Chan.
I guess you throw Emre Can back, like
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it's definitely a position that needs a lot of reinforcing, and you guys know how I feel about the midfield and the rebuild that we need there. But moving on, our winter signing, and I'm going to butcher his name, Dion Ramaj, headbutted an opponent while he was out on loan. He headbutted the Brøndby reserve keeper Thomas Mikkelsen after a 2-1 loss in the Danish Superliga derby. Nothing short of nonsense. I don't know why any player would stoop so low to actually do something like this. It has no place in the game. The case could possibly be considered a criminal offense and could lead to potential prison time. That's what they're saying in the papers, but we'll see what happens in that sense. But do you want a player like that in the team? I mean, like he was just signed, but I'm not really sure that's going to be like. Does he have a future here? Is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, at first I didn't see the headbutt. That's the first thing I wanted to say. I only read about it on an article from Sky Sports. So I don't know if this was like a little headbutt or like a Zinedine Zidane headbutt. Um, but Sky described it as Ramage essentially like grabbing the other player's jersey, pulling him, and then headbutting him. And the criminal implications, I believe, are it's kind of like a technicality formality in um, Netherlands. I think that it can be seen as assault, so like formally it has to be brought to authorities. Um, I doubt that that is going to actually lead to like formal legal ramifications outside of a likely fine. And I believe he has been handed a 3-match ban for that. Um, the one thing I think I could really say to kind of go back to your question of do we want someone like that is that he is pretty young. So my hope is that he would see this little headbutt incident as a learning experience, and maybe consider not headbutting people in the future because
Come on.
generally that's not a good thing when you're playing football.
But
Uh,
here's my issue. Here's my issue. It's that I'm all for passion. I'm not for head loss. So prime example
yes.
is, let's say, Rudiger. Now it because this is fresh in my mind. That happened about an hour ago. Rudiger threw something at the referee after a call that he didn't like at the end of the game, and eventually got red carded, and he had to be calmed down by the entire staff. Now,
Like holding him back.
I literally, like, he wanted to throw an ice pack afterwards, but they stopped him. But like I said, I'm all for passion. I'm all for showing grit and being aggressive in the game as long as it's clean. But head loss, losing your cool, your temper, not something that you want to see. Regardless of the severity, to be quite honest, you need to be able to control yourself, especially in a derby setting. Like, it's gonna be heated, it's gonna be crazy. Like, if we played Schalke, what would this player do? Like, these are questions that we would ask, and that I'm assuming the board will ask themselves. Like, hey, if we played Leverkusen, it's not a derby, but it's gonna be a very intense game, and we had this guy on, would he lose his head? So I'll leave that to the fans. If you guys can um, shoot us, oh, it's not a tweet. Hold up. I'll leave this to the fans, right? If you guys go on our Blue Sky and add us, let us know what you think. Like, is this someone that you would want to see? Is this someone that we should look to offload in the summer? I'd love to hear from you guys. Another story coming out is a Bild claiming that Dortmund are planning a swap deal with Chelsea involving Jamie Gittins and Carney Chukwuemeka. So I've been throwing everything your way. I'm gonna start with this one. I'm not a big fan of Carney. I'm not gonna lie. I don't get the hype. I think he has a place in the team, but he's had one Bundesliga start, I believe. He came on as a sub today as well. Yes, he did make a run that eventually led to the third goal, but is that worth losing Jamie Gittins in a swap deal? I'm assuming it's going to be Carney plus money for Gittins, because Gittins is valued very highly. I don't mind losing JG. I'll be very honest. Because I did call it. I told Eli and Brian way earlier in the season that JG is going to be gone in the summer, and we're not going to stop it. But I'm not a huge fan of the Carney hype. I think he's a good player. He's not a 10. He's a box to box midfielder. If we played a diamond formation, he would be great in it, because he's just a lot of energy, very physical, very classic English. And yeah, I don't get it. I gotta say, he's nice, he's cool, but I just don't get it. What do you think?
I mean, look, I think each time I see Chukwuemeka play, I shouldn't say each time. Most of the time I see him play, I'm impressed. And in the last few weeks, he's impressed me more and more, especially last weekend. But I think there has to be a question asked of, this buy option being 30 to 35 million euros for a player who, like you said, has only been fit enough to start one Bundesliga match, and he's really running out of time to prove his worth, I'd say. So I do think that there's a place for him in the team, but I think there has to be some real consideration over the amount of money that we would be willing to put on the line for a player of his profile, because a player like that, it makes me think he's like a 34-year-old player, not a 21-year-old player. Somebody who can come on and be an impact sub, which is great, but it's kind of like Gio Reyna. Um, we Reyna's a little bit different because I think his fitness is better, and he just hasn't been good enough for that starting role. But I mean, with Chukwuemeka, we've got to see a couple more starts, and it is really concerning to me, um, just that how few minutes he actually has managed to play during this loan spell, even if those minutes are really great or really promising. um, I'm not really going to be too upset over the potential of losing Jamie Gittins. And I think that's mostly because I've been prepared for it. Especially because he's English. Um, like Sancho, he's going to want to play in the Premier League, and he's going to get suitors from the Premier League. So that none of that is surprising. I will say that whenever I see the term swap deal, I do laugh a little bit because it just makes me think of like the FIFA video game, because it's like that classic swap deal that
Yeah,
never actually really happens in
yeah, yeah.
in in the transfers. But then, if we're in a situation where Chelsea wants Gittins and we want Chukwuemeka, they could make something happen. Whether Kiel is able to like work his magic and get a 60 million for Gittins in addition to Chukwuemeka, then awesome, go for it. But if the swap deal means that we get Chukwuemeka but only get 25-30 for Gittins, then I would really question that deal, because I think if we're going to get 60 plus for Gittins in any manner, um, that's money that could be reinvested really well. And I'm 35 on Chuk just feels like too much. Maybe
Yeah,
that'll change in the next couple weeks.
yeah, it's not gonna change for me. I think he's all right. You know, I think he has glimpses where you watch and you're like, wow, that was a really nice play that he was a part of. But I don't know, I feel almost maybe because my favorite players are the tens, right? Because I loved Iniesta, I loved Royce, I loved obviously Messi, Romario. I loved. I mean, Romario's the nine, but he could play that role. Um, so I feel like I look at him and I'm like, this is not a 10. Like, this is not a Brandt.
Yeah.
This is not a Verts, right? Like, he's not that kind of creative player. So if he's going to be brought in for a different role, if he's going to be brought in to play in a double pivot and a midfield three off of one of the sides and not in the 10 as one of the 2 8s, cool. I can get that. I can understand that. But to bring him in as like a replacement, for example, for Brandt is not the move. I don't think that's the right move. I do think that our midfield obviously needs bolstering, but it's not just going to be one player. Like, we need more, and I think losing JG in this kind of deal could put us in a pickle, because we could get more money for JG somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I don't know exactly the fee that they would add. I'm talking about Chelsea to get JG. Because like, I'd rather get one of their other players. Like who do they have? Neto. Like, I'd rather get Neto. Like, that's a very exciting player on the wing. He's very direct. He's obviously it's not a midfielder, I understand, but it's a very good player. I don't have the stats. Eli, don't kill me. Anyway, next on our list is Niko Kovac is apparently wanted by Spurs. There was a quote from earlier this week. He said, "My goal was to arrive here at Dortmund, get this ship afloat again, and then do a very good job in the medium and long term. Nothing has changed in that respect." I really like that quote. I think it shows that he's not just here for the short term. He at least is saying that he wants to be here and have, his fingerprint on the project. And I love that. I think something that we've been wanting from a manager, but for various circumstances, we haven't been able to have that, Klopp reincarnation, because I think we've been searching that for a long time, as if that's like the only answer to our problems. There's a lot of problems, and that's not the only answer. But in any case, what do you think with Kovac's quotes about wanting to be here long term?
I mean, I'm perfectly satisfied with that quote. I think I did have and have expressed some mixed feelings on Kovac since his arrival. But I would certainly say at this point, I've seen enough from Kovac to say confidently that I'd be happy with him starting next season, continuing as Borussia Dortmund coach. I think there were a lot of issues in the squad that Kovac sort of needed to address. A lot of players who were underperforming, a lot of guys that, I mean, were just not getting the best out of the squad. And I think Kovac did run into some early hiccups and some growing pains in figuring some of these things out. But since he has sort of successfully implemented the back three into the squad, and sort of this 3-5-2 type of formation, I know the midfield has moved around, switched up a little bit, um, but I really think that Kovac has done some promising things the last couple weeks, and I'm happy to see him enthusiastic to stay. And right now, I'd like to see him stay.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think he's done well so far. I was also a bit, but of the options we had, he was the most experienced, and I'm happy that everything's going well on that end. But our last story is something that we did reference slightly earlier, which is Gregor Kobel being, and as it's written here, courted by Chelsea and Newcastle. Another player that Chelsea wants to take from us. So I'm Kobel in. I gotta say, I don't see a reason to let him go other than wanting to cash in while the value is high, which I do understand. But there needs to be a relationship between the goalkeeper and that back line. And yeah, I just don't understand, or not don't understand, but I don't see a reason to let him go yet. He has been shaky this season, but last season he was incredible. So, we do have to take this season as it is, and hopefully we can improve on it on the next. What do you think?
I agree with you. I'm definitely not in favor of selling Kobel. I think like many players in the squad, he has not had his best season. I think there's a lot he could be a bit better with his feet, and I hope that improves. But in numerous matches this season, we have still seen some incredible shot stopping, and I'm not in favor of it. I mean, the other question to be asked too is if we do sell Kobel, what do we do then? Is it Alexander Meyer as our number one and bringing Dient Ramage as the number two? And maybe that is the long term plan. But I mean, Meyer's in his 30s too. Uh, or would it be cashing in on Kobel and bringing in a new number one from somewhere else? And if that's the case, who and where? So I don't think I, I think that this would be a tough one. And should we get into any European competition next season, I do think Kobo will stay. I mean, I think the idea of playing Champions League football would be enticing if we're not playing Champions League. But at the same time, Kobel is also partially responsible for where the team is, just like the rest of the team. And he's got to step up along with his teammates to earn that place in Europe. And it's not out of the question. I mean, even that last Champions League place is not necessarily out of the question. I mean, we're I think 3 points behind it right now, if I'm not mistaken. Um, so it's just a matter of like we got to keep winning and hope that Freiburg loses once. Because even if we end up tying points with Freiburg, we should take that spot by goal differential.
Yeah, currently
But
we are.
yeah.
Oh, pardon me. Sorry about that. I'm gonna cut you off.
Oh no, you're good.
Oh,
I'm
I
not
was
sure I
gonna
have too
say.
much more to say there.
Yeah, currently we're sitting. Currently we're sitting at 48 points, and Freiburg is at 51. We are playing Werder Bremen. Was it Werder? No, Wolfsburg. What am I saying? Wolfsburg. We are playing Wolfsburg next season. Pardon me. And let me see who Freiburg is playing. But I do think that Champions League is not necessarily out of the question, but it will be difficult for us to get there because not only do we have Freiburg to jump over, but it's also Leipzig. Freiburg will be playing Leverkusen, so that could work in our favor. And Leipzig will be playing Bayern Munich. So this coming week is a very big week for us because we could potentially leapfrog Leipzig and be tied on points with Freiburg. And I believe we have a better goal difference. Yes, we do. So we would jump over them in goal difference. So huge week coming up. Like it's not a, make sure you're, you got all the games on at the same time. If they're playing at the same time, like you need to be zoned in because this is going to be crazy. But is there anything else that you wanted to add before? Exactly, yeah, it really is. It really is.
Yeah,
is there anything
another
else?
Final.
It's crazy. Is there anything else that you wanted to add, Joey, before we head out?
I don't think so. I mean, I could plug some socials, but
go for it. Let's plug it.
Yeah, really great to be back on the pod again. I know you guys like listening, so if you like reading too, check out BVB Buzz for everything coming out from me and Pedro, along with some other great writers. And I think Ellie's got some other plugs for us.
Yes, I do. I got plenty. So check us out, obviously, on all our socials for Dortmund Dispatch. Check out our new pod, the Bundesliga Exchange, and we have something new in the Bundesliga Dispatch. You could check out all of these profiles in the link in our bio. We're literally everywhere. We're on TikTok, we're on YouTube, we're on Blue Sky. We are anywhere you need us to be. We're on Instagram, right? Like I said earlier, right, with our polls. If you want to get involved, give us a follow. We are creating so much content, and we got more coming towards the summer. So check us out everywhere. Thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you next week, and hopefully we'll have a lot of positive things to talk about. Peace.